I think we need to start with something that, well, it really defines our modern era. We are just saturated with health information. We track our steps, we count macros, there are apps for everything, and the diet industry is worth hundreds of billions of dollars.
Billions. And yet, for all that focus, all that money, all that technology, the average human body weight just keeps going up. It is probably the biggest paradox in modern health.
And that paradox, that's really the core of the question for today, isn't it? When someone tries to lose weight and, fails to keep it off, is that a failure of willpower, of their motivation?
Or is it something else entirely? Are we set up to fail by our own biology? The sources we've looked at explore this really controversial idea that the failure is biological, that the body has a defended set point for weight.
Today in The Hypothesis, we're diving deep into your collected sources on the concept of the biologically defended body weight set point.
Right, and to start, we should probably clarify what we mean. We're talking about homeostasis. It's the body's #1 job. Keep everything stable. Your temperature, your blood pH. These are non-negotiable.
And the set point theory argues that body fat, our stored energy, is regulated with that same kind of life or death intensity.
Exactly. It's not just a passive result of what you eat. It's an active, feedback-driven control system run by the brain, specifically the hypothalamus. It sees a drop in fat as a threat.
Okay, so let's unpack that. How did we figure out the brain even had a fat sensor? It goes back to the 50s, right? The lipostatic hypothesis. But they knew there had to be some kind of messenger.
And that messenger wasn't found until 1994, the hormone leptin. It's secreted by fat cells, so the more fat you have, the more leptin you produce. It's the signal. It tells the brain how much energy is in the bank.
So in a perfect world, this system should work like a thermostat, right? Fat goes up, leptin goes up, the brain says, okay, slow down appetite, speed up metabolism.
And if you diet, fat drops, leptin drops, and the brain screams, hunger, conserve energy.
Yay.
That's the ideal model. But if it works so well, why is obesity so prevalent? And why do people with obesity often have incredibly high levels of leptin?
That sounds broken. Like the thermostat is sending the signal, but the furnace isn't listening.
That's a perfect analogy. It's called leptin resistance. The brain is getting flooded with the "we have plenty of energy" signal, but it can't hear it. The line is full of static.
And if the brain can't hear the signal, what does it think is happening?
It thinks there's a leptin deficiency. It thinks you're starving, so it starts defending that higher body weight as if it's the new necessary normal. The set point has been reset, but upward.
This is where the sources get really fascinating because they introduce a more complex model, the dual intervention point model, the DIP model.
Yes, this explains the asymmetry, why it's so easy to gain weight and so hard to lose it. We don't have one single point, but more of a zone of indifference. As long as your weight is in that zone, the body doesn't really care.
But the zone has boundaries.
Exactly. 2 intervention points. And the defenses at each end are completely different.
Okay, so on the bottom you have the lower intervention point. This is the ancient, hardwired defense against starvation.
And if you hit that point by dieting, the body fights back violently. Intense hunger, metabolism tanks. It's a full-on counterattack.
But the upper intervention point, that was historically set by predation risk, being too slow to escape a predator.
And for modern humans, that risk is, well, it's gone. So the defense against weight gain is weak. It's flexible. You can push right past it.
So for the listener, the experience is gaining weight is easy. You're just drifting up through that zone of indifference. But losing weight means hitting that hard lower boundary, and that's when the fight really starts.
That's the physiological battle. To understand it, we have to look at the evolutionary roots.
The Thrifty Gene hypothesis from the 60s, the idea that we were selected to be incredibly efficient at storing fat to survive famine.
Right. Our genes are optimized for an environment of scarcity. So when we voluntarily diet today, our body thinks a famine is coming and it panics.
But the sources brought up an even more compelling idea, I thought. John Speakman's Thrifty Gene hypothesis.
I agree. It explains the asymmetry so much better. Speakman says the main pressure against being heavy wasn't efficiency, it was predation. You get too heavy, you get eaten.
But then maybe 2 million years ago, we invented tools, fire, social groups.
We took ourselves off the menu.
And without that pressure cleaning out the genes for higher weight, those mutations just accumulated. They drifted through the population.
It perfectly explains the DIP model. We kept the strong defense against starvation, but the defense against getting heavy just faded away because the penalty was gone.
And this connects directly to modern life through the insurance hypothesis, which is just incredibly powerful.
It is. The idea is that the brain sees stored fat as an insurance policy. If it perceives the environment as unstable, and this is linked directly to food insecurity, to poverty, it decides it needs a bigger policy.
So instability itself, the fear of scarcity, acts as a biological signal to raise the set point.
Exactly. Your ancient brain doesn't wait for the famine to actually hit. It starts preparing now,
Yay.
demanding you store more energy, more fat, just in case.
Okay, let's go inside the brain. This isn't just a theory, it's a physical place. The arcuate nucleus of the hypothalamus. This is the control room.
It is. And it's a constant balancing act between two opposing groups of neurons.
On one side, you've got NPYA-GRP. Let's call them the hunger accelerator, the conserve energy crew.
And on the other, you have pumomikart, the satiety system, your full burn energy crew. The set point is just the balance between them.
And when you diet, that balance just gets thrown completely out of whack.
Completely. Leptin drops, and that's the signal to slam the accelerator. The pulmicart satiety neurons get inhibited, the brakes are cut, while the NTYA-GRP hunger neurons go into overdrive. It's an overwhelming biological drive to eat.
But it gets worse, right? The sources say this isn't just a chemical shift, it can become actual structural damage, hypothalamic inflammation, gliosis.
This is one of the most sobering findings. A chronic, high-fat diet can activate the brain's immune cells, causing low-grade, persistent inflammation right there in the hypothalamus.
And that leads to scarring. Gliosis is scarring.
Essentially, yes, it's a physical change in the brain tissue. And that scarring can damage or even kill the POMC satiety neurons. If you literally destroy the neurons that are supposed to tell you you're full, you have created a permanent structural reason for the set point to be higher.
And the body has backups. It's not just the brain. The gut-brain axis fights back too. Let's talk about ghrelin.
Ghrelin, the hunger hormone. After someone loses weight, their ghrelin levels shoot up. And crucially, they stay high for months, even years. At the same time, satiety hormones like PYY and GLP-1 drop.
So the body is actively making you hungrier for longer than you were before you even started the diet. It's a penalty.
It's a relentless, beautifully coordinated response designed to get you back to the highest weight you've ever been.
And all of this theory is borne out in the clinical data. The most famous example has to be the Biggest Loser study.
That was the definitive proof. Participants lost huge amounts of weight, but their resting metabolic rate, their RMR, dropped way more than it should have just based on their new size. That's adaptive thermogenesis, the body slamming on the metabolic brakes.
And the long-term data is just staggering. 6 years later, their metabolisms were still suppressed by about 500 calories a day.
500 calories. Slower than a person of the same size who had never been obese. The body remembers. To maintain their new weight, they had to eat 500 fewer calories every single day while fighting intense, hormonally driven hunger.
That's not a headwind, that's a physiological wall.
And the statistics back this up. Meta-analyses show about 80% of lost weight is regained within 5 years. The system is built for regain.
Look at the odds for those with a very high set point. For a morbidly obese man to reach a normal weight through lifestyle alone, the annual probability is 1 in 12,190. For a woman, it's 1 in 677.
Those aren't numbers that suggest a lack of effort. Those numbers define a biological near impossibility.
And if that wasn't enough, yo-yo dieting or weight cycling actually makes it worse.
It does. The body gets more efficient. Each time you diet and regain, the body learns. It gets better at storing fat, gaining more weight back on fewer calories. It even changes your gut microbiome to accelerate that regain.
And this set point, it isn't just about what you do in your lifetime. It can be programmed before you're even born.
The Dutch hunger winter of 1944-45 is the classic, tragic, natural experiment.
A wartime famine.
Exactly. And babies who were in utero during that famine were epigenetically programmed for a world of scarcity. They developed what's called a thrifty phenotype. Decades later, they had much higher rates of obesity.
What I found incredible was that the sources say this effect can pass down even to the grandchildren, the F2 generation. How is that even possible?
The hypothesis is that the stress literally alters the epigenetic information carried in the sperm. The grandfather's experience chemically changed the instruction manual that got passed down.
We also see the set point shift for other reasons, totally independent of behavior, like menopause.
A perfect example. The drop in estrogen reduces leptin sensitivity in the brain and lowers resting energy expenditure. It's a hormonal reprogramming that causes a shift in fat storage and actively raises the set point.
Which finally brings us to the things that actually work. And they work because they stop fighting the biology and start changing it.
Bariatric surgery is the prime example. Its success isn't just from a smaller stomach.
It's a metabolic reset.
Precisely. The surgery causes huge, long-lasting changes in gut hormones. Satiety hormones like GLP-1 skyrocket, ghrelin plummets. It chemically reprograms the hypothalamus to defend a new, lower body weight.
And the new GLP-1 drugs, they work on that same principle. They mimic those satiety
They
signals.
do. They chemically suppress that high set point, flooding the brain with I'm full signals. They're incredibly effective. But the fact that weight is so often regained when the drugs are stopped shows you what they're doing. They are suppressing the biology, not curing it. The underlying drive to return to that higher weight is still there.
So when you put it all together, what does this all mean? The conclusion from the sources seems overwhelmingly clear. The human body has this ancient, powerful, redundant system designed to prevent weight loss. Failing to keep weight off isn't a moral failure, it's the predictable outcome of fighting that system.
That's it. Weight loss is mechanically possible, of course, but maintaining it is biologically opposed at every turn. Real, durable success often requires biological tools, pharmacotherapy, surgery that can actually overpower that resistance.
That distinction is so important. The impossibility isn't personal, it's statistical, and it's driven by relentless physiology.
And this brings us back to the insurance hypothesis. If we accept the evidence that things like poverty and food insecurity are actual biological signals that tell the body to raise its set point, then it poses a really big question for you, the listener. What fundamental societal changes, beyond just telling people to eat less and move more, would actually be required to lower the set point for the most vulnerable people in our society?
A powerful question that goes way beyond the individual. Thank you for joining us for this intense dive into the biology of body weight regulation. If you found this deep dive illuminating, please take a moment right now to subscribe and share this deep dive with someone else who is intellectually curious.